All right, you saw that we basically have an API currently. When we say /greet, we get a response in this JSON format. Now, I just want to show you exactly, what is doing this behind the scenes so that you understand what is going on. So if I go back to IntelliJ and in here, have a look. So we have a record in here. And basically records, they are classes that allows us to achieve immutability. So we get all arguments constructor equals hash code, all the fields are finals. And basically instead of us having to write, so let me just show you the equivalent as a class. So in here, so if I just comment this for a second, now we get an error, but that's because in here, if I just say class, and then I'm going to say greet, and then response. And for this greet response, what we have is just the greet field. So this would be private, final, and then string, and then greet. And with this, we have one constructor. So let's just refactor this. And we also have the getter in here. So get greet. We also have the toString. There we go, and equals, and basically I think we can generate equals and hash code. So let's just generate like this. So equals and hash code, next, 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 and there we go. So basically this is the same as having, so you can see that we have so many lines of code in here, but basically this and this class that I've just created is the exact same thing. So if I reload and then go back to Chrome, and if I refresh, you can see that this still works. Now, greet right here, this is the instance field that we have, and then this is the actual value. So within IntelliJ in here, so have a look, greet, so that's the key. And then the value is hello in here. And you'll see how basically we'll build more complex responses, but in a nutshell, this is what's happening. Now, the reason why we get that response is because of this getter right here. So if I was to remove this get method and then reload, go back to Chrome and refresh, have a look, we do get a 406 status code. So basically we get an error in here. And if I go back to IntelliJ and hide this, so you can see that having the getter here is really important in order for us to get the correct value that we set when we pass within the constructor. Now, what is behind all of this, right? So the reason why we can get the JSON object from this class right here called greet response is because of a library called JSON. So within IntelliJ, if I open up project and then open up the external libraries, and in here, so you can basically search, but it's right here, com faster XML. So if I put this bigger so you can see everything. So I will look com faster XML, JSON core, annotations, you got the core here, data binding, data types, so on and so forth. So basically this is a library which is doing all the magic for us. So anything that has to do with JSON, so faster XML JSON. Now JSON is, so in here I'm within the official page for JSON, and basically what they say is that JSON has been known as the Java JSON library, or the best JSON parser for Java, or simply as JSON for Java. It's what it does. Now, I'm not going to spend too much going in detail how JSON works and whatnot, but you can see that it's really popular, and I would highly advise you to go and read more about JSON if you're interested on the JSON serialization and deserialization. Throughout this course, you'll see that everything is abstracted for us, and by default, what we get is a JSON blob. So if I reload and I think I need to restart the server. So restart and then reload. You can see that we get a JSON object in here. So this is what we are getting by default. Now, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Is a standard text-based format for representing structured data based on JavaScript object syntax. That's all it is. So in here, if I show you, so a structure example, I think what they want to show is basically how you can denote various data types. So here, for example, squad name, this is a string, formed, this is a number in here. You have booleans, you have arrays of objects in here. These arrays are denoted with square brackets, and then within the square brackets you can have objects, or if your array has just strings, basically it's just strings in it. But what is doing all of the magic for you is JSON. Now what I want you to do is, you see that this JSON response right here is in one line, but if you have a large JSON response, everything will look ugly. So go and install JSON Viewer. So I'm using Chrome, so just install the JSON Viewer Chrome extension, and it's also available for other web browsers. So in here, I'm just going to enable. There we go. Now, if I go back to the request in here, and if I reload, you can see that now we get a JSON response, which is formatted. So here we can basically collapse, expand. We can view the raw response, and basically it's nicer because we can basically have the data well structured so that we can easily see what is going on. If you have any questions on JSON and JSON, please let me know. But throughout this course, you'll see how we will basically model structured data with an API that we will build in a second. That's all for now. Catch me on the next one.